Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Cobb from #Sports, and welcome to day 2 of #SportsConf. Today, we're going to be exploring the convergence of sports, social media, and technology. And I don't know if you tuned in for day 1, but we've got an amazing lineup in day 2. Some of the highlights are going to be one-on-one interviews with Whistle Sports CEO John West, and we also have a one-on-one interview with Andre Iguodala of the Golden State Warriors. We'll also be talking about topics including fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports in particular, esports, virtual reality, wearable technology, just a lot of different things that are disrupting the sports industry and are sitting at the convergence of sports media and tech. But first, we're going to start off with a great panel on connected stadiums. This is a hot topic. This is something we've covered in past events. We've got an amazing lineup of people that are at the forefront of this space that are going to share with us some of their insights and thoughts on what mobile and the Internet of Things are doing to impact the live sports experience. We invite you to join the conversation as usual with #SportsConf. Use the hashtag on Twitter and other social platforms to ask questions of the speakers. You can also share your insights and thoughts, and this is very interactive. We'll be fielding those, and we'll be, letting our speakers, share their opinions from your questions as well. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the panelists. We got Priya Narasamhan, CEO of Yinzcam. We have Kevin Blue of Stanford University Athletics. We have Daren Trousdell from OneUp Sports, and we also have Abel Cuskelly of Pogoseat. Just to jump right into it, quick question. So why is mobile and Internet of Things so important to the sports experience and the live stadium experience? I guess we'll just start with Priya.
Sure. So first of all, I think the fact that every single one of us carries one, if not more than one device around with us. And second, I think increasingly fans want to know everything about the game, every piece of analytics that's there in the game, down to how many yards does a player cover when he runs from one end of the court to the other, as well as what are the impacts of the sport in terms of recovery? How quickly does a player recover? So I think it's really understanding how to sense the infrastructure that is the stadium, but then how to provide it to fans in a way on the devices that they carry every day that they can enhance their fan experience.
Great. Daren, would you give me your thoughts?
I think about it a little differently. I think a fan has struggled for years to get around the stadium and to unlock components of the stadium or areas of the stadium, or even as simply as finding the nearest, bathroom or concessions. And I think these devices, mobile and moving towards Internet of Things, the iWatch, things like this, are going to become a way to unlock the stadium for the fan alongside the game experience, but more importantly, provide the utility that's required to really amp up my game day experience, which goes beyond just adding another layer to what you're watching on the field or the rink or in the court.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think that in addition to being able to unlock the stadium and provide fans with enhanced access to information through their mobile devices, I think that it's important that as stadiums get increasingly connected, we're able to create experiences for fans that don't disrupt the normal way that they use their devices, similar to how they're using them in everyday life. When we have fans who enter stadiums who are used to using their devices in a certain way, and because of various connectivity challenges, they're no longer able to use those devices in the way they're used to, that becomes a negative thing to deal with as far as the fan experience is concerned. And as a property, we try to avoid that as best we can.
Great. And then finally, Abel?
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to convenience, and sports venues are competing with home entertainment. And home entertainment is very convenient and very easy to sit back and watch your 80-inch flat screen without having to go through parking or spend the time driving there or go through the crowds. And so sports venues do want to provide the best possible experience for their fans, and they want to make sure fans continue to have a lot of good reasons to come to their events and their games. So one of those things is removing friction, whether it be helping them park, helping them find bathrooms, and then another piece is actually adding additional value on top of that, so providing experiential access, things that everyone wants, whether it's being able to get behind the scenes and see where the players work out at, or kind of experiences like that. But they're really looking for ways to go above and beyond what the traditional viewing experience is that a fan can get from home, and that includes bringing in and utilizing assets that they have physically there at the stadium or arena or ballpark. And I think it also, we're starting to see it includes engaging the fans to interact with each other and the team more in person.
Great. So one of the things that you constantly hear about with live events and sports is that it's a competition. You need people to come to the stadium. You need to sell tickets while you're competing with fantasy sports in in a better experience, watching at home, bigger screens, etc. Is that becoming less of a competition and more of one experience where you, with Beacon technology nowadays, and you guys are on the cutting edge of these types of technologies, how are teams looking at it? How are you looking at it from a perspective of a startup? Is it one versus the other? Is it one big experience? Priya?
Sure. So I think we've looked at beacons in multiple ways. So I think we've looked at it as a fan experience tool. So obviously being able to activate different pieces of content, especially exclusive content if you show up to the stadium on game day. So think about the fact that you walk into a stadium entrance, and as soon as you walk through the entrance, there's a beacon that hits your phone up where you can actually go ahead and retrieve a custom message from the coach greeting you for showing up at the stadium that day. Right? I mean, that's got to be a goosebumpy moment, right? So where you feel something really special happened because you showed up. I think that's one. The second thing is obviously looking at it also from the teams or the properties perspective, which is, how do you make sure fans get to see everything you have to offer them? I mean, I go to a lot of games myself, and I know for sure I've explored barely 20% of a venue compared to everything that I could see. How do you open up the venue in a way that people actually get the full benefit of it? And then the third thing is thinking of beacons beyond the venue. Beacons inside the venue clearly enhance the stadium experience, but outside the venue, they can serve as a way to drive sponsor activation. They can serve as a way to drive engagement in other places where teams want to have engagement. For example, if you decided you would have a fan celebration event at a park somewhere, it should still be able to drive engagement there. So thinking of the stadium as beyond the stadium itself, I think that's also where beacons can be helpful.
Abel?
Yeah, so we've had some experience working with a number of beacon companies with teams like the SF Giants and Gimbal, Golden State Warriors, and Sonic 360. And for us, I think it really, where we see beacons fitting is offering personalization. So providing the opportunity to deliver the right content or the right offer at the right time and in the right place. So, for example, when a fan gets to the top of the escalators going to the upper section of a arena, we can push a notification saying, "Hey, you're way up here. You can actually upgrade your seat down to get a lower seat and get a better view and get in action." When you walk by a certain concession stand that's serving, let's say, garlic fries, and we know from your past buying history that that's what you like, then we want to push that specific person a notification for that offer. Right. So I think what it provides is both the opportunity on the collection side to collect data and realize where those high density purchase areas are for the different kind of items, and then on the offer side to actually personalize what content or what sort of offers a team or their sponsors are pushing out to people. And it comes back to convenience. For me as a consumer, I don't want to be targeted at the wrong time when I'm not interested, and I don't want to be targeted with the wrong thing or in the wrong place. And so beacons actually provide, and also micro-location technology gives teams the tool set to actually deliver on that.
Yeah. Daren, so your company, and I'll let you explain it, but it seems like you entered the sports space through gaming and through some innovative variations of fantasy in some sense of the word. But now you've also worked with sports organizations to build their entire mobile app solution. So you've been kind of on both sides of the fence where you're engaging fans that maybe are in the stadium and out of the stadium. How do you see the interplay of that? And I know you've also had experience working with Beacon Technology, the Redskins, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I think the interplay is, you've got whatever the stadium size is. If you're a big college stadium, you got upwards to 100,000 fans in the stadium, and to think about what you're asking people to do, you can start by the messaging's, the low-hanging fruit around beacons, but what we're trying to do is create a conduit to collect the data that can be used to unlock the at-home fan for the clubs as well. And I think the at-home fan has been mostly dominated from a digital perspective by a league efforts, and one half of our business is definitely focused on league efforts. We have gaming specific to our league products, but the insight we found was that the transactional fan really exists with the teams. So that's really why we looked at the team business as a real opportunity, because the transactional fan needed utility, and the suite of, call it V1 team apps, or what even exists today, isn't servicing that. So when I get to the stadium, we look at it and say, along what Abel was talking about, we see unlocking our low-hanging fruit ticket upgrade solutions, fan experience solutions, but we want to leverage the data we're collecting from these technologies to provide the personalized experience on the at-home side of things, so that we're getting a relationship started in stadium, but that's continuing through the at-home experience. And it's not just another view of content. We can really personalize the experience 365 and most importantly, drive purchases and the core commerce that matters to the teams.
I think that's a huge theme as far as merging the two into one all-encompassing fan profile and continuing dialogue, right? So it unlocks monetization opportunities, it facilitates a stronger relationship, and I think technology is really leading the way on that. So Kevin, I want to focus things on you. It seems like Stanford University Athletics is always piloting new technologies, and I know sports stadiums in general are great testing labs, but for some reason it seems like a lot of the latest, most cutting-edge technology is being piloted at your arenas and your stadiums. How do you go about forming these partnerships? Can you speak a little bit about how they come to you? Do they come to you? Do you seek them out? What's your strategy? What's your approach and mindset?
Yeah, I think we're the beneficiary of being located where we are. Obviously, Stanford's a part of the Silicon Valley ecosystem. So we do have relationships through a lot of our community with a number of startups in the space. As you mentioned, we've been on the leading edge of a lot of these things. We've had Wi-Fi, publicly accessible Wi-Fi in our stadium for 4 football seasons now, which has got to, we believe that's as long as anybody in at least the college football environment has had it. And the pluses and the minuses of being on the leading edge in these types of situations are numerous. We get to learn things really fast, but at the same time we get to fail really fast. And we talk a lot about whether or not there is in fact a first mover advantage in a lot of the things we're doing here. Obviously, experimenting and trying to be as innovative as we can be in the college environment is part of our DNA at Stanford. But there's also opportunities to fail that we encounter that we wouldn't have encountered had we been a little bit more methodical. So it is interesting. It's fun for sure. But it's fascinating to see the development of a lot of things in this space, especially from other folks on the panel. There's some interesting products in the marketplace that we've had an opportunity to test.
And so, what makes for a successful test? I mean, obviously this isn't Field of Dreams. You build it and they will come. There's a lot that goes into getting your fans to, for the education process to understand that it's available, to educate them how to use it. There's a lot of restrictions. How do you make sure that these pilots are as successful as possible? I'll start with you, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean we've had some successful pilots and then some failures. what we often try to do is start with a subset of our population that we know are more inclined to be early adopters. But when it comes to the broad relevance, so to speak, of a particular application or tool, you alluded to the education piece. I think that's a really important and difficult thing when you're talking about behavior change for consumers. You can have a great product, and we see a lot of mobile products out there that are pretty good products, and once adopted, people tend to use them. But the function, the core function, and the core value proposition of the products themselves are hard for a lot of traditional fans to understand, and we have to ask ourselves whether our voice is best used educating folks about these products, or if the opportunity cost of that comes at, we'd rather use the time that we have talking to our fans, perhaps promoting an upcoming event or asking for a donation or some other purpose that's directly related to our business. So it becomes a challenge as far as how much of our voice we use to educate fans about a new app that we're testing, or whether we're sticking to our traditional sports marketing messages and priorities that we have.
Mm-hmm. And Priya, what about yourself? You work with so many different teams. How do you ensure success, and what features to add to your platform? What goes into that process?
Sure. So first of all, I absolutely loved what Kevin said. Being on the bleeding edge is, you take the risks, but at least you've thrown 10 things at the wall and see which 3 come out. And I think, that's just as important. And, our DNA, we started as a pilot, with the Pittsburgh Penguins way back when, 6 years ago. So piloting things is in our DNA. And with my academic hat on as well, I'm a professor of computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon. Piloting things and doing research for them is in our DNA. So I think that's fundamental. How do we decide what to build on? Well, bunch of different sources. One, obviously, we're driven by the teams and what they bring to us and the ideas that they have, the content that they sit on that, in my mind, I could never even create, right? And that's unique to what they have. So I think it starts with the content. Why do I, as a fan, go to a stadium? It's for the content, it's for the team, it's for all those things. So I think it starts with that. The second aspect is also being able to, I'm not sure somebody's getting a phone call here, I think. All right, thank you. And the second aspect of this is also listening to the fans. I think one of the things we prided ourselves on as a company is we put fans first in everything we do. The company was founded by fans, and it's something that we obsess about. Reading all the support emails that we get from fans, understanding their top 10 pain points, understanding their top 10 requests. That goes into our roadmap. So hearing what fans say goes into our roadmap. Hearing what our clients say goes into our roadmap. I personally read every tweet, every Facebook post that goes through and that comes through for our company, and that decides our roadmap. So it's looking at all of that, and also beyond that at what's more in the research realm that hasn't even hit the industry yet. We were looking at beacons before they hit the industry. And similarly, we're looking at things, well, they haven't been on the market a couple years out. Sensors and other things. So it's really also looking at what's the next wave.
Interesting. And Abel, could you talk a little bit about loyalty? So you speak a lot about beacon technology and everything that's available, and I think sports teams started to integrate loyalty programs, but it wasn't quite there as far as being able to reward them for certain actions, and now it's starting to get where all these data points are available. How is loyalty being rolled out in terms of the live sports experience and with sports teams? How are you seeing that play out on your end? If you're on mute.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of loyalty, I think it's something that when you're looking to reward a fan for their business or any consumer, you want to do something that's above and beyond. And ideally, you want to do something that they're going to talk about and share with their friends and tell other people about, so you can attract more customers to activate. In the case of sports teams, it's getting more fans to show up to the games and and actually earn those loyalty rewards. So for us, we're very big believers in encouraging that, and we've worked with companies like Ski Data to actually integrate with their loyalty platforms for teams like the Detroit Pistons, so that fans can earn loyalty points and also spend them on things like upgrades and VIP upgrades, experiential stuff like getting down on the court after the game to shoot some hoops while everyone's still in the arena. I think what's even more interesting is how teams and sports properties and venues in general can actually engage their sponsors around loyalty. A lot of brand sponsors are looking to activate and to reach the mobile consumer, and they're looking to do it in a way that's different than traditional advertising. So mobile ads is no longer as exciting, and it no longer really works as well. There's 14% of consumers actually trust an ad, and that's you contrast that to 93% of consumers trust what their friends tell them or what their friends share with them. So I think what's really exciting right now is combining those two, the brand sponsors with the team and sports properties, and providing things that are going to get those fans to socially share with their friends that are exciting and that something that surprises and delights them, right? Which brands want to do, and that actually creates loyalty. Not only loyalty, but then it also provides activation of new customers, because those customers are feeling good and feeling taken care of, and they're telling all their friends about it over social media, which really takes the experiential element to a whole new level when you have the social leverage. So teams have always had these assets, which is sort of exclusive and behind-the-scenes access. And now, when it can be socially shared with the world, that access and the impact of that on a select few fans who you want to reward and give special treatment to can be greatly magnified. So I think that's a really big deal, and it helps you not only retain your users, but get new users as well.
Thanks. And so, yeah, I'm glad you touched on brands and sponsors. It's such a big part of the ecosystem a lot of times. They provide money and support for a lot of these campaigns and initiatives. So, Daren, could you tell me a little bit about your clients, the teams that you work with, the leagues that you work with? What are they coming to you and asking for? What are brands and sponsors asking for? And how are you using mobile to serve those needs now, and then things that they're looking to do in the future?
So, we've talked a lot about the fan experience stuff, which I think there's a lot of good points, and there's a lot of shared, thinking and ideas here on that. But what really is different, and where I think the opportunity is, and what we're doing with our partners, is we're trying to take digital, and with a heavy slant to mobile right now, but obviously with new devices, Internet of Things coming out, we're trying to build microeconomies for our partners. And they have businesses, and some of them are very big businesses. Some of our partners don't have as big of businesses. But to me, the current mobile experience that we offer is the fan's operating system for the club. And that fan will transact and interact through that. And we've either bought or built capabilities to do that. And every single thing we do has a brand integration opportunity and sponsorship and advertising, regardless of one's view on effectiveness, which I have my own views on effectiveness, and I think there is no more effective platform for a brand to be integrated into than a professional sports experience, if done properly. And we have the luxury that we have league properties and team properties where we can see things at scale. And the important thing, just kind of keying off of what Abel was saying, the difference is, I think, what an individual property can and can't do is an individual property doesn't necessarily always have the scale to run very large programs, but it doesn't mean they can't run programs that make money and drive the fan experience. And if integrated properly, just thinking about stuff we've done, whether it's the gaming side where we've had sponsors provide value through our games, through our NFL product, we had Courtyard Marriott provide value by giving free tokens, which is a currency in our game, to our fans by just watching videos. So it's not as intrusive, and we're doing similar activities on our team platforms. So, but it's really coming back to the team should be doing all these activities, not just to check the box or to to address what they think the fan needs. They need to also do this because it has business results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add to that, what Daren said, I think it's spot on. Sports create great stories, right? And there's no better vehicle or entity to tell that story than the fans themselves, due to the passion and the excitement involved. And brands are very excited and very much want user-generated content that somehow pairs their brand with that sports team and that sports story.
So Kevin, just to piggyback off of that, so we had Stanford on the other day, yesterday, doing a case study on Snapchat takeovers, and Abel talked about user-generated content. Obviously, Snapchat has that feature. Tell me a little bit about how you use user-generated content. You're in a university that's very connected. It's the birthplace of Snapchat. It's got to be a big opportunity for you.
Yeah, you alluded to the Snapchat takeovers that we've been doing with our student athletes, where they're sort of taking over the athletics Snapchat account for a day and sharing some really interesting behind-the-scenes content with their fans. Obviously, Snapchat's a growing platform, especially for people of student age and people of prospective student-athlete age as well. So it's important for us. But we actively integrate user-generated content into our football game day experience. We have a ribbon board in our stadium, 360 degrees around the stadium, and we are throughout the game displaying tweets and on that ribbon board from fans in the stadium using a particular hashtag. And throughout in timeouts, we will also display photos from the tailgate and from fans in the stands on the video boards as well. So that's been an active part of our game presentation for a couple of years now, and it's been a little divisive because some of the traditional fans that we have and rely on for support aren't natives to digital social media and don't understand kind of the appeal and attractiveness of why integrating user-generated content appeals to a particular demographic, especially our students. But we're able to strike a balance, and we're able to integrate some of those interesting user-generated tweets and photos into the game day presentation of football.
Right. And Priya, you have experience Yinzcam working on both the professional league side and the collegiate level with a lot of different teams and organizations. Can you speak to any differences in terms of fan behavior? Obviously, that's a different demographic. I'm just curious, given the insights and data you have access to, what's going on? What's the difference between college crowd, pro crowd, or is there a difference?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think the level of engagement and the kind of content that fans tend to consume, is really impressive on both sides. And some of the features have been unique. For example, on our Baylor Stadium app, we have the concept of digital keepsakes, where fans can virtually try on a helmet, virtually try on a championship ring, do various things, and then share socially. And Baylor does a phenomenal job every single week, every single game day, of unveiling a new one. And the amount of engagement in that point in time is just ridiculous, right? And it's because, again, tapping onto a theme that we had before, it's personalization tied to team-specific marks, and personalization tied to an asset that fans care about, as a helmet, a flag, a championship ring. So I think that's, we've really seen the engagement be fairly high in college. I also want to talk a little bit about the sponsorship stuff you brought up before, Steve, because on the sponsorship side, I know we've talked a little bit about, placement and things like that, but I think there's two bins in sponsorship. One is digital activation and physical activation. The digital activation is, ads, placement, presenting sponsor, all those things. The physical activation is the beacon stuff. How do you get fans to show up at a venue, especially when a sponsor is involved? And some of our teams do that really well, and if we have some time, we can dig into those.
Yeah, that's thanks. It's interesting to also talk about what you spoke about earlier. And we also had a panel the other day, Sports Teams is the new media empire in the digital age. I find it fascinating because they have such an engaged audience and such a large audience, and now with technology, they're able to reach people at a global scale. Obviously, we're talking about the connected stadium, but that's starting to extend. With virtual reality, you could argue that the connected stadium is connected to consumers and viewers anywhere that has access to something, technology like that. But in another industry, Whale Rock just announced that they're going to be creating celebrity hubs, media hubs, and trying to go over the top with celebrities like Kim Kardashian and Howard Stern. Daren, what are your thoughts on the potential for teams, in particular professional sports teams, to really create their own media hubs? And as far as there are restrictions with league rights and whatnot, but what are some of the innovative things you're seeing and that you think are going to be on the horizon in the next 12 to 18 months from a media perspective?
It's a great point, and it's very, very relevant thought to even a meeting I had this morning before this. There is always going to be the bright and shiny new ideas really get a lot of time and energy put into from the the digital folks on the team side of the business, which I think is great. It's a point of innovation. But there's stuff that is happening now. We're doing stuff in our R&D innovation side of our business. Really, and again, starting our business on the at-home side of things really helped us understand the fan needs and how to give fans the content, but also the tools to engage with the team at home. So we've always been about creating a media hub. Our V1 products really didn't focus on the stadium, and now we're focused on the stadium to complete the experience, but we wanted to nail the at-home fan because we believe the teams have an opportunity to own their fan, and especially that transactional fan. So it's very, very important that the experience be all-encompassing. But our platform's not just about our mobile app today. The wearables are coming into play. But more importantly, if you think about the VR stuff, the Oculus coming out in a year, you got Google doing 2 versions of VR headsets and Sony, etc. That is an incredible consumer proposition if you think about it from the fan, and the teams don't want to lose out on that. If that fan's sticking an Oculus Rift on their head and they're getting a courtside view to the game, in theory that would be a threat, but only if the teams don't pounce and jump on it and make sure it's part of their fan experience platform.
Yeah, that's great that you brought that up. I actually just experimentally participated without an Oculus Rift, which I know was central to the activation, but the Super Bowl live viewing party through, I think it was NextVR platform. It's very interesting, and I don't think it's trying to compete with the live experience. It's a different experience. There's going to be new types of content. There's going to be a new feeling surrounding it. But at the same time, that's far off, and it's great to talk about this, and we're making huge strides in things like virtual reality, which we'll talk about in a later panel. But there's the future and whatever, these pilots that we do that are so amazing, but if you look at it, the numbers just really aren't there to justify an investment and spend, maybe because the infrastructure is not there. Can you just go down the line? We're running out of time, so I'd like to get from everyone on the panel your thoughts on one technology that is right now the most crucial and important, and you're getting the most value from, and it can be any type of technology. And then another technology that you think within 2 years is going to be something that becomes that or replaces that. Priya, start with you.
Sure. I think that for us it happens to be mobile, connected to everything, connected to your TV, connected to your beacons, connected to your sensors, connected to your, as you said, Oculus Rift glass. It's really mobile, not in itself alone, but mobile as the hub for everything else connected to it. The protocols that make it possible, and the new experiences when you tie a ticketing to a beacon, to a loyalty program, to a sensor, to an Oculus Rift. And what emerges out of that combination, I think, will be pretty special.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think the current technology that's most important for us, and really I think for most teams, is being able to provide sufficient connectivity in their venues. Right? It's a simple idea, but it's a complicated engineering challenge. Creating the right publicly accessible Wi-Fi and DAS combination, very important. I guess in the near term, we think that the most important consumer-facing technology will be an improved mobile experience for managing tickets and access to events. I think that this seems like low-hanging fruit, and some of the ticketing vendors out there are doing a better job at it, but it's still not as intuitive and as easy as boarding an airplane with your boarding pass and managing your Amazon account on your phone, etc. And this is something, obviously the ticket is something that every attendee uses, and it should be the next step as far as improving the mobile products that are available to sports fans.
Daren?
Just taking off that, I think I completely agree with that. I think the connection in the immediate world of your apps, your mobile device, and wearables. If you think about the iWatch, and who knows how long adoption is going to take, but having a little insight into that, I think that providing another notification tool and an access point really helps make unlocking the stadium, but also getting access to the event and using the access point as your passport will help bring it a little closer to that, boarding an airplane experience that Kevin's mentioning. And I think that's something that needs to be perfected now. And looking forward, it's about looking at these disparate platforms that, if I take individual teams that we work with, there are many different individual platforms now. There's a web platform, there's a mobile platform, and the winners will be the teams or the people that are able to chain these platforms together with really strong connected tissue that can have that data travel through the many different experiences and sources and end back in one central data location that can provide value back to the team to engage better with the fan and ultimately drive their business goals.
And finally, Abel.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to when we're 100% mobile tickets. I think right now the big focus, and where there's a lot of value add possible, is creating actionable and useful analytics of all the data that teams and sports properties have collected, and that they are now collecting through a variety of new means. As they get more and more of that data on their fans, they're going to be able to better and better personalize the experience to those fans to improve it. So to me, I think that's the biggest, most impactful thing from the fan experience standpoint. Down the road in the future, I think what I would be excited to see how it plays out is how augmented reality at the game is introduced and integrated in.
Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate taking the time out of your day to share your thoughts and insights. As you can see, we're scratching the surface. To try to contain this topic in one panel is impossible, but I think we covered a lot of ground. And once again, thanks for joining. Next up, I think we have an interview with Whistle Sports CEO after a short break. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, Steve.